Hey everybody, today is November 16th, and believe this comes out on November 19th, which I believe is a Tuesday. And yeah, so I just got done watching yesterday's video, which came out on Monday if you watched it when it came out yesterday. And it cracked me up, that funny validation, like right at the end of this whole thing. I think I'm all done. I've got the validation scheme all squared away, and I'm really happy with it. And I came in, just fell into that weird big I versus little I inject validation service. It seems like the TypeScript compiler should have caught that because I said it's a type validation service, which I brought the interface in. So that is, I think, a compiler bug that they will probably fix in the future, I would imagine. They being the Angular gurus over at Google. The On my side, yeah, it's very clear. Like you shouldn't name things when you're a developer, very generic names like that, because you do have a good chance of having a naming collision. Um, if I had named it something that wasn't um, didn't have a corresponding name, probably in whatever the big I inject does, um, because it found a validation service. So that was hilarious. And that is sort of like the experience points that you get that will eventually like help you become a much more of a elite developer over other developers. Like those are the kinds of experiences that that you really want to get. That So anyways, that was cool. I was really glad to do that. So that's the top of the list. The second thing that um, uh, having developed this, I sort of fell into a pattern. I don't know what the name of the pattern is. I'm sure there is. I did not invent this pattern, but this sort of like all of our coding schemes that I'm aware of are very don't interact very well with hierarchies. But like a lot of data that we like to use is represented best in hierarchies, which leads to a lot of extremely difficult to maintain code. Um, and I really like this thing where let me go over here and let's just expand this. I really like this thing where we in the validation service. That's where it's at, right? Where we have this sort of hierarchy validation path map, which says, hey, we got a scene and we have a fog density. And that returns this validation token. I kind of like the idea of just having that in general, like the idea of, hey, I have this reference map that has that's in a hierarchy, and then I'm going to give you the path, and then you're going to give me a token that maps to that, and then I'm going to write a bunch of code that responds to that token. So when I'm reading the code, it makes a lot of sense because I'm reading the name of a token, and the token should make some sort of sense. So, like in this specific situation, I have this invalid positive name, which makes a lot of sense for validation. But it would be kind of nice if I actually had went a step higher and it was like uh, scene fog density was the name of the token. And then anywhere where I'm working with this thing, I know that I'm working with the scene fog density. And then, because if you look in the way that the code works for like animations, there's all kinds of bizarre, um, like very difficult to read um, code that is just like talking about indexes and things like that, as opposed to like what you're actually working with. And it would be nice if I was just working with a token that was named what it is, as opposed to sort of some paths and stuff. So I would like that, like a something that transforms this hierarchical sort of thing into a single word that describes what that hierarchy is, so that when I'm coding, I don't have to sort of imagine, okay, now I'm working in the blah 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 of the blah blah blah. So that's great. I'm really happy about that I've learned that. It does make me really sad because I have made the determination that this proof of concept is not viable. Because I really, there's two major things that I wish, if I could go back in time, that I should have started with. And one was I should have started with like import export and be able to import a file, show what's in that file, and then export, and then be able to tweak those values within the application, but also be able to tweak them within like Excel or something like that. I think that would have been way, way better because now, because there was like some freaking cool ass um, animations that I made over, like some dude was like, "Oh, you should get an award because you built this cool Eclipse emulator and stuff like that." But that's gone. It's just in the video. I can never, I would have to rebuild it from scratch. I think it probably took me like 45 minutes to build it, and I can never recover that. So that is one thing that I would do different. And this other thing that I would definitely do different is I would have built this structure tokenization sort of scheme where I have a hierarchy and then I say, hey, what's the token for this hierarchy? And then I work with the token throughout everything else. Um, I think I like that a lot. And so those two things, because those two things aren't built into the very soul of this application, I do not think this application is viable for the future. And which the worst part about it is, like, I thought, okay, this is going to be a POC, and then I would be able to roll from this POC and maybe start from scratch or maybe continue with the POC and be able to then move forward to an MVC. But I don't even think I can do that. I think the POC was good. I learned a lot of stuff about ThreeJS. I learned a lot of stuff in general. I learned stuff about Angular. It was a very good POC, but I don't think I achieved enough things in this POC to make it to where I can really legitimately do an MVC from here. I'm not an MVC, minimum viable MVP, an MVP. MVC is mod, model view controller. But anyways, so that's kind of a bummer because there's stuff. So there's still a few things I can learn. So I'm probably going to work on this until the end of the year. This POC, like, kind of like I want to try some stuff out along this tokenization stuff with animations, and there's a few other things that I kind of like to figure out we before I kind of start from scratch. The other big thing that I really botched, and it was lack of experience, was like from a YouTube perspective. I really should have started with video zero being in a playlist and that playlist working through, and I didn't. I just numbered everything. I wish I'd have done it in a playlist. I know people have actually, I've had few comments from people saying, hey, why isn't this in a playlist? It would be a lot easier if it was a playlist and all that. So I kind of wish I had started in a playlist. Trying to set up a playlist now would take hours and hours and hours. There's 293 of these videos. So, trying to get that into a playlist would be really hard. And of not a whole lot of value. But it would have been super simple to do from the beginning. So I do think that that's something I'll do different. Anyways, yeah, so that's all water under the river, under the bridge. It's water under the bridge, no air through the jet engine. Like stuff that it's good to learn. You got to learn this stuff, but it's not worth getting too upset about. So what's next? Well, what's next is to check all this stuff in. First step, checking it in, is just going over everything and making sure that there's nothing that we don't like, console logs, anything that's just obvious that jumps out. Like, we do not want this. Do I want it? Is that line? Yeah, that's fine. That line it's a good line. I think that's good. That's good. I don't care about that, but we'll leave that for now. It doesn't look like we'll ever get to unit tests in this application. I wonder if I should do unit tests in my next application. I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know. That looks good. Um, I think the demand for unit tests, like I haven't seen a job um, description that talked about unit tests in months. I don't think um, I don't know that companies, individuals, organizations, anything. I think everybody has like there was a time where like unit tests would really save you, like especially doing upgrades and stuff. I think those days are behind us. Okay, so I did not see anything I didn't like in there. Where are we at? We are at 10 minutes. So I want to do a commit of this because it is like the first full implementation of this validation. So I would like that all sort of packaged up in one commit. Um, so let's just make sure that, okay, so this, that we can explain everything we're done. Okay, so validation, so basically we have two types of validation right now, none and invalid positive flip. That makes sense. Our service has this validation path map, validation token for path. So like I imagine in the future one that I'm going to start next year, it would be token for path map. And that will be right at the beginning. And basically at this point in the application, we'll have this map that you can just look at and you can see everything that we have done. And we'll be able to, describe the whole application very easily, all the pieces. Um, let's see, validation text for dictionary. See, this is so nice. For invalid positive float, we know that this is the text for it. Validation help text. We know this is the help text for that. God, I love that. I don't know. Right now, I'm in a honeymoon with this whole concept. Obviously, when we start the new POC, we start from scratch in this, we'll probably find some blemishes and some issues with it. I don't know that I like this. I'm hoping I can find a better way to do this. You send it a path, it checks to see, and it returns the token. I'm hoping we can come up with a better way than this, but maybe not. Maybe that is the best way. I feel like we've basically, like, if you were to look at the animation code, basically we have this set of complexity, like abstract complexity, littered throughout the entire code base over and over and over again. So every time you go on there, you have to rethink through paths and tokens and stuff like that. Get validation text for token. So you get a token. Yeah, so this is basically gonna, all you have to do to understand this is that you get a token and you look in that dictionary. Same pattern here. I think at this point I went with redundancy. Like I sacrificed having redundancy, like sort of things that are kind of code that looks fairly similar for simplicity. I would rather be able to read this and know what I get and have redundant code that kind of looks at that than have some sort of abstraction that says, oh, I want to validate, like basically like I could handle these two by adding another argument that says, oh, I want validation text or I want help text, right? Like that's one way I could handle this and I could make this into one big long, or I could have a bunch of little functions that are easy to understand. The is one deep, I mean, it's fairly easy. It's weird. It's weirdly abstract, but it's fairly easy to understand. And then apparently I already had this back in the day, the validator. So this guy should be pretty straightforward. There's nothing weird in there. Maybe that line up there should go away. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. And I guess this line should probably go away too. And while we're here, I mean, normally I don't really care about stuff like that. I would never like hit somebody in a pull request about that. I would, but like if you're in there, you might as well fix weird line things like this. I do not like this. Like I just don't. It is the way you do it. It's the way ChatGPT said to do it, but it would be nice if that was not that way. I like this a lot better um, than putting it in the constructor. The problem with this, my biggest problem with this is it just leads to a lot of Git conflicts. I would say that is probably the biggest challenge for new developers, especially, is dealing with Git complex. I remember when I was sort of newer to Git, like if I had any sort of Git issue at all, like if Git didn't just work, the dread that I would feel in my heart was just like palpable. I mean, you could just, it's hard to even explain how dreadful that was. That seems very clear. Validation gets validation text for token. Um, I like being able to understand these things without having to like get a full grasp of everything. That you know, when I'm doing, I'm assuming that like when if this was going to a PR, whoever did the PR would just kind of look at these things and sort of make sure that everything makes sense, and that they can sort of make some sort of sense of everything that's going on. Uh, this every time I see this, I think of this person I used to work with. I had so many other words I wanted to say. Person that I used to work with, that like every single time he would have made a comment like, "Please put all these on one line," and then we'd have to have a big argument, and then I'd have to like threaten to quit um, because I didn't want to put it on one line because I don't want to have a bunch of Git conflicts. Um, like the guy literally could never get a PR through because of this issue. Like literally every single time he would ever try to get a PR through, he would have all these Git conflicts with other developers he was working with because he had everything on one line, and he just could never figure out that that's. Or I think he could figure it out. He just was emotionally unable to accept the fact that putting everything on one line was making it impossible for him to get a PR through. Okay, that makes sense. This. I hate the fact that I'm so triggered by that guy because he's infected my brain probably for the rest of my life. But that looks good. Not worried about that. That looks good. Now the one thing I really do wish I had, and I don't know if I'll do it then, but I just love it. I love it so much. Is end-to-end testing. That would be really cool. Um, just to because I love watching it. It's like I feel like it is very much like when you go to a place and they have like a rich end-to-end test. It is so much like the first time in Jurassic Park when they see the dinosaurs, or like actually when Malcolm is talking about like this is how it always is at the beginning. Everybody's like, "Ooh, cool dinosaurs," and then next thing you know, it's like, "Run for your life! The dinosaurs are coming." That's exactly what end-to-end development is like, or end-to-end suites are like. Like they're so cool when you see them, but then when you have to maintain them and things start breaking because you make small tweaks or whatever, then all suddenly it's just like a nightmare. But they are so cool. Um, so I think that looks good. Git add dot, and just take a quick look at the stages, make sure there's nothing weird in there, and then git commit dash m, and this is video 294. Video 294, and then implements field level validation and help text. Boom. Get status. All right, so, and I mean, I think we can just push that, right? So we don't have this up there. Guess I might as well do this. And that is exactly how I do that. I do not remember the set upstream origin stuff. I mean, it's good stuff, um, but I never remember that. All right, so now the branch is out at Git and all that. So what is next? Well, it is a little sad because I do know that I'm not going to be um, like this code has a very limited future. I'm probably going to quit maintaining it and upgrading it at the end of 2024 and start something new in 2025 from scratch. Let's see. Today, in 3 days, Angular 19 is out, so I definitely want I'll want to probably create a new thing. Do I want? I think I do want to. In scenes right now, so we did a great job, good job on fog density. We have our fog density working, and then uh, then um, so I guess tomorrow would be a good idea just to kind of create a video that where I just use the fog density and kind of show it what it does and all that, kind of demo the new fog density for EXP2 fog features, mainly for me to have a reference of what that does and how it works, and then I guess the next thing will be linear. And I want to do linear because I want to do near and far, and I want them to have the exact same validation. But then I want to add a new validation that is specific to near, and another one that's specific to far, that just says that near has to be smaller than far, and far has to be bigger than near. I think that would be just a good test of this new architecture that I've sort of stumbled onto. I didn't invent it. I don't think I've invented it. I'm pretty sure that this probably has a name and everything, this tokenization sort of hierarchy to token transform scheme. But the nice thing is that, like, so right now I've proven that I haven't proven. I've created a generalized validation that I'm going to use in multiple places. So first thing first is kind of just show that it's good for that when I go to do near, it'll be a lot easier just to set that up. Then and reuse something, and then same thing for far. Hopefully far is super simple. It's kind of the point where it's like, well, I just did one, now doing this new one is like doing it in my sleep. And then creating a unique one will be interesting, and then create it for near, and then create a different unique one for far will be interesting. And then the other thing that's interesting is near and far will have multiple validations, and handling that, because I don't think I did really anything in the info especially to handle near and far. I think it'll work for the inline, but I don't think it'll work for the info, or it might work for the info. I don't know. We'll have to see, because I do loop over it, so we'll see what happens. But anyways, I think that will take me out for the rest. Between that and doing the upgrade, that'll probably take me out for the rest of November, and then December will come up, and it's kind of like we'll probably go to animations, and I'll probably try to do a similar sort of implementation for, like, maybe animating fog for that, but in a new way, because we have an existing way, and then create a new way. So I'll have two different things, and then sort of that probably will take me out to the rest of December. We need to kind of sit there and find a README to sort of start updating. Let's see, there's a README, right? Yeah, README in all kinds of places. In assets, README. It's kind of interesting. In my assets folder, I have multiple READMEs. Unfortunately, I thought there would be one up way at the top of this whole application. Yeah, I wonder why that one didn't come up. Yeah, so in here, it's just like purpose / the POC, and then let's not do that because we already have a check-in. But anyway, so I want to update this. Lessons learned, things I definitely want, mistakes made in this application, things that I would do differently, sort of capture all that stuff so that when we start the new POC, unfortunately we can't start an MVP. Um, when I start the new POC, I'm ready to roll. Anyways, happy coding, everybody. Bye.